What is up, RotoGrinders? Yeah, funky time coming in here just a little bit later than normal because it was a smaller slate. We should mention DraftKings and FanDuel distinctly different slates tonight because FanDuel is including the two earlier games. Their slate starts at 6:30. 6:35. I want to get all technical. 6:35. FanDuel is including Logan Gilbert taking on Trevor Rogers, the Mariners versus Baltimore, as well as the Marlins in Cleveland, Gavin Williams versus Yuri Perez. So yeah, 8 games on FanDuel, 6 on DK. We think, but maybe not, because Kevin Roth, chief meteorologist Kevin Roth, is telling us that we have to be concerned about both these games here in New York. I'll go ahead and drop this in chat. And you know what? Right on cue. Roth's going to be on in about an hour or so for crunch time, but he did update the 2 games in New York. I'll go ahead and drop this in chat. What's up, chat? Hit that like button. Subscribe. Turn on notifications. We're going to make, producer Steve is feeling generous. We're going to do a Will Wednesday. Will Wednesday is a thing. Give me an ETA, Steve. 7 o'clock East Coast time. What time you want to do Will Wednesday? Everybody's got to get in that Discord channel, RotoGrinders.com/Discord, the live stream chat channel. And Steve's going to put a post there. Just hit the avatar underneath his name. Your name will go on the wheel. We give away a week free of RotoGrinders Premium if your name happens to be chosen. And we rigged it. There's no more rigging with the wheel.
No more rigging.
We had some issues. The bugs are out. It's not rigged anymore, Steve. You promise?
Yeah, it's all good.
A lot of allegations out there.
I can't lock a time, but let's say for the chat when we're done going through the tier lists and then give our home run picks. We'll do it right after that, before crunch time.
Okay, so basically right before crunch time shows up. All right. We did get an update. I'm here with Kyle Murray. What's up, Kyle? How are things? Happy Wednesday.
Yeah, they're good. Back from a week-long vacation, so it feels good to be back in the swing of things. Talking some baseball, doing some more stuff for football. Looking forward to it.
Where did you go? Anything eventful? Anything noteworthy?
I went on a family golf trip. So I stayed up north Michigan, and then came back. Was home for about 6 hours, and then I went to Austin, Texas, Thursday through Sunday. So, yeah. That's
the UP, right? Is that the kids call it, the UP?
Yeah, well, we didn't quite get to the UP, but we up north. We drove north from where I am about 4 or 5 hours, so kind of midway point between where the UP starts and kind of where I live. So yeah.
Isn't fudge like a big thing up there? Aren't they obsessed with fudge up there?
Yeah, on Mackinac Island, that's a big fudge factory, I suppose. So yeah.
Is fudge still a thing? I can't tell you the last time I had. I guess it's still a thing up there.
The last time I would have had fudge is if I got it from Mackinac. So yeah.
Austin, you do like the music stuff? What we doing in Austin?
So one of my best friends' little brother, who I've known since they were like in diapers pretty much, turned 21. So we took him down there for his 21st. So it was a good time.
Nice. Yeah, I've never been. One of those cities I've never been to. I hear it's a good time. Very crowded though. It's very crowded now, right?
Yeah, it was super busy. We they have a good comedy scene down there. So we saw a couple comedy shows. That was probably the highlight of the trip.
You go to the mothership?
We didn't, but we went to like a smaller one where we actually got lucky. We had a bunch of guys who normally perform at the mothership, but since it was on a Saturday, it was a little bit busier. So a lot of those guys were at this place called Roscoe's, and it was their all-star show. So there was like 7 or 8 guys, all did like 10, 15-minute sets. It was pretty awesome. So would definitely recommend.
Nice. Sounds like good times. All right, we did get an update. I did drop this in chat. Read this at your own leisure. But Roth and he's upgraded. I guess. A little bit more optimistic about these games here in New York. Both the games in New York, as of like 20 minutes ago or so, were orange, yellow. Now he has flipped the colors. It's yellow, orange. So, if you don't know raw scale, the dominant color, the orange is the scarier color than yellow. The dominant color is first. So he's got them both yellow, orange now. Rain moving in a bit before first pitch. Actually looks like the worst of the rainstorms missed New York City to the south, leaving just a steady rain behind. Steady rain following before and around game time. I think this looks very much like a late start and play clean. And Roth is saying that for both games, the Mets and the Yankees. He'll be on in an hour if things change, give you guys an update. Weather is fluid, but that's good because I wanted to be able to use some players in that game. Yeah, definitely want to pick on the likes of Carlos Carrasco. The Mets absolutely put a shellacking on Spencer Strider yesterday, and now they got Carrasco, who's not very good, not very good. Oh, that's producer Steve hyping up his Mets. Yeah, it took me a second. I'm like, did we just get breaking news or something? Yeah.
Pete Alonso broke that record.
Shout out to the polar bear. Yeah, I mean, look, we care about today and today only. But yesterday in the survey, I wrote up the Mets as my sneaky team, and I only make so many lineups, and I did not stack the Mets, and I was very tilted at myself because I've been digging into Strider's stuff, and like, not to say I called it or whatever, but yeah, and it's hard to pick on Strider on a 12-game slate, but and I play smaller contests mostly. I couldn't quite do it, Kyle, but this is how this is the life we choose. You make decisions. Sometimes they work out, sometimes you don't. We did cash. We cashed. So you're not supposed to complain when you cash, I suppose. But all right, it is a 6-gamer on DK. It's an 8-gamer on FanDuel. We are including those 2 games. The Marlins and the Guardians, as well as Seattle and Baltimore. You want to give me a screenshot, an overview, how you're seeing the slates today?
Yeah, so obviously smaller slate. 6 games on the main slate on DraftKings, a couple more on the FanDuel slate, but for the most part, still a smaller slate regardless of what site you're playing. The pitching is unenthusiastic at best. I mean, in terms of like the top end options, which I feel like, I usually only do these MLB shows on Wednesdays, and that's just usually the case with the way that we have a lot of these teams in their rotations right now. So it's been a normal thing for me to talk about on the show, but we do have a couple of guys who, Hunter Brown, Joe Ryan, these guys are aces on their team, but we'll talk about the matchups, maybe not necessarily ideal matchups. So that's an interesting dynamic there. So a lot of the top end skill pitchers are not necessarily in the best matchups. So I do think that brings an interesting dynamic into the slate where it opens up some more paths to, spending down at pitching or maybe just looking to be more contrarian because, when you look at the ownership right now, still have Hunter Brown at 43% projected ownership. Joe Ryan's at like 18%. I think Gausman is up there. 26% for Joe Ryan, 28% for Gausman. So these guys are still getting ownership despite, not being in the best matchups. So I think that's an interesting wrinkle here for these pitchers. So that's the main thing that I kind of noticed from like the bird's eye view. Again, brings in some of these cheaper options that we'll for sure talk about at the pitching side of things. But I think for the most part, that's the number one sort of question mark coming into this slate is building around these top popular pitching options, mainly Hunter Brown, right? He's 10K on DraftKings. He's 43% projected ownership. I think will be even higher than that in some smaller field stuff. I mean, he's been fantastic this year. He's, in the top probably 3 or 4 at worst in terms of the AL Cy Young right now. Obviously, he won't win it, but he's still in that pool. So that's always a good thing to tip your hat to. And then when you look at the matchup, it's just not that great of a matchup here for him against the Red Sox, although he's been good and typically don't have any issue backing good pitchers in tough matchups because I think just the inherent advantage goes to good pitching rather than good bats in today's MLB, but it's still certainly a question point for the slate.
Yeah, the Boston lineup looking pretty good. Bregman is healthy now. Roman Anthony is starting to turn into the prospect that people, I shouldn't say, what is he, still 21, 22. He's not a finished product, and he still already looks, you can see this guy's going to be a stud going forward. Like you said, as far as Brown in the season, 30% with the Ks, 32.2% against lefties. This Boston lineup is pretty good. A lot of power there as well. A downgrade when it comes to the ballpark. Really, the only quote-unquote easy out is probably Connor Wong in the 9-hole. He has the second highest. Well, he's got the highest K rate on the slate. Well, you know what? Otani is a 32.5%. And I guess you can roster Otani, I guess. Maybe he pitches 3-4-ish innings. He's got to be kind of sort of somewhat perfect, but you're getting a bit of a discount. Gilbert, if you include FanDuel, 35.1% as far as the case. That's actually the biggest number on the slate, on the FanDuel slate. I'll tell you with the ownership stuff, and this is really surprising to me on DK especially. You mentioned Hunter Brown, 42%, and I get it. I don't love the matchup, but I'm going to play him too. At least I'm going to try to play him. I cannot believe that currently this stuff changes. The slate's still an hour and a half till the bell. We have Robleski right now as the number 2 most popular pitcher. And I get that he's cheap, and I get that the Angels will strike out. But what are we going to get out of him? If we think Otani pitches 4 innings or so, we think he's going to go 4, maybe 5. Like 5, you're begging for 5. You're thrilled to get. I don't get the number on Robleski. I'm confused on that. Maybe you can speak to that. 29% seems way too high. I know he's 6'7", not especially expensive. And you want to open some salary for some bats, and it's like Schlittler is basically the same price. Who's got a longer leash? And there's a chance Robleski doesn't even pitch. I assume he pitches. There's always a chance something goofy happens. Do you think that's weird? I think that's weird. I don't understand ownership on Robleski.
Yeah, I think this happened actually on a slate you and I did on a Wednesday where it was Ohtani and then Sheehan was the expected long reliever. We had the same sort of conversation where we expected Ohtani to go 3-4 innings, and then after that it's like, okay, at most Sheehan can get 5 innings if it goes well. And I think he actually ended up having a decent game, but he only went, I think, 4 1/3 maybe. I don't remember exactly, so I could be wrong, but I think the reason why you see something like this in the ownership is that all the things that you sort of mentioned about Robleski, not knowing what we're going to get out of him, not knowing exactly how many pitches to maybe project him for, the projection model doesn't really account for that, right? It doesn't understand the context of that. So that's probably the reason why the ownership is higher than you're probably going to actually see it come in at. And that's definitely worth noting. I would almost certainly take the under on this ownership number here as well.
Same.
So yeah, it's definitely a good point to make, but that's I guess the context behind probably why that number is there, just based on what I've seen on the the back end of the projections. But for Robleski, I mean, like we've seen guys recently. I mean, Tyler Alexander the other day against the Tigers, he came in long relief and ended up being in the optimal lineup that day. So it's certainly possible. The matchup is certainly one that can increase strikeout upside. And Robleski does have a 26% strikeout rate on the year. So, I mean, there's certainly some good things here in Robleski's favor as well. Ideally, you probably wouldn't want him behind Ohtani because I think Ohtani's going to continue to sort of get ramped up, and they're going to probably want to see if he can go deeper into the game, which doesn't bode well for a guy who's in long relief after him. So, yeah, there are some question marks, but at 6'7", there are certainly some points to be made in his favor as well. But I would agree, Schlittler is probably a guy who looks a little bit more, safe, as well as probably having a higher upside, just because he probably has a longer leash or at least an ability to go deeper into the game. But I would prefer Robleski's matchup. So I think there's a couple of different ways to look at that dynamic of the value guys today.
You could make one argument is he can kind of sort of walk into a win if they're up, if they're up when he comes into the game, and you think he probably comes into the game middle of the 4th, start of the 5th. He's coming right out of the pen. I guess Ohtani can go 5. I don't think he will, but I guess he can, right? That they're ramping him up a little bit. He went 4 innings last time out, I believe. I don't love it. I don't love it. I'm not saying you can't do it. Like you said, you got to thread the needle there. And the other part of it is the slate's not perfect when it comes to pitchers. DK is a smaller pitching pool. Like, we're not talking about, you don't have Logan Gilbert or Yuri Perez or Gavin Williams or even Trevor Rogers, all like rosterable pitchers on FanDuel, and you're only rostering 1. So you have less pitchers and you got to roster twice as many. And you also kind of ran it down like Hunter Brown, not a perfect play, but certainly, the skill wise, I saw people dispersing in the chat, but the skill there is legit. I don't know the matchup, but I'm still going to play him, at least going to try to play him. Ryan against the Yankees is not a perfect matchup. There's really no perfect. Peterson, Carrasco. I don't think anybody wants to roster Kyle Hendricks. Rasmussen's been very, very good. The ballpark stinks, and his leash is just really, really tight. You're kind of begging for 80 pitches or so. He's got to be really efficient. And JT Ginn, I see some people hyping up Ginn. He's got really dramatic splits. His lefty-righty splits, and whatever's left of this Tampa line, I feel like 4 guys just like disappeared on Tampa. And it's like, who are these new people that are raised now all of a sudden? These creative players just popping up out of nowhere. Get in the season, 33% Ks versus righties. That's awesome. The splits are really, really dramatic. 11.9% walks versus lefties, almost a 300 ISO versus lefties. But then you have to ask yourself, who's the imposing lefty on Tampa? Well, Brandon Lau. You got Brandon Lau there. He looks awesome as a one-off, if nothing else. But beyond that, Chandler Simpson's a speedster. He's not going to punch it out of the park. So I think Ginn is kind of interesting too. We don't officially have a Tampa lineup just yet, but It's probably not going to be great. Is he somebody that you're considering as like a cheaper SB2 again?
Yeah, I don't think he's terrible because, again, on a site like this, you can sort of make excuses to play some of these cheaper guys, but I don't love the strikeout matchup for him here. There's a lot of guys who can put the bat to the ball for this Rays team, and like you mentioned, there's not necessarily a ton of power in this lineup, but the ballpark certainly isn't great. And then if at 6'8", I probably prefer Schlittler. I think you can make a case for Robleski just being better in the matchup. I will say, again, probably has a better chance to go deeper into the game and work more innings. But I don't think he's off the board, but I think there's probably at least better feelings for me about some of these other cheap guys.
Trying to see what other players we can actually talk about, that other pitchers that may or may not be exciting or worth rostering. We're touching on basically all of them. And I also want to get your thoughts on FanDuel. We'll tell you FanDuel-wise. I guess I'm right there right now, so I can tell you how FanDuel works. Ownership-wise, we're seeing Gilbert as the top dog. He is cheaper than Hunter Brown. 9.8 is the asking price. Bigger K rate on the season. Although Baltimore has been pretty good. Wait, hold on. Let me pull up my stats. I want to say that before. Yeah, they've been pretty good collectively. Better against righties than they have against lefties. But this also is kind of a weird Baltimore lineup. It falls off really quickly.
Yeah.
Carlson and Johnson and Mayo. I know he's got some pedigree to him, but we haven't quite seen it. Noda's not been good in a small sample. Mountcastle's back. I know he homered in his first at bat, but it's not been a good season for him. It's not a great collection. I know coming into the season, Baltimore, a lot of hype. One of the most disappointing teams in baseball, if not the most disappointing. Who will be more disappointing than Baltimore? Maybe I'm missing somebody. Atlanta, possibly Atlanta on the board. It's not been a great year for the O's, but yeah, FanDuel-wise, I would put Gilbert ahead of Brown. If nothing else, he's cheaper. Would you agree with that? Do you have a take on it? And maybe you want to include into the conversation Yuri Perez, Gavin Williams, who, by the way, Gavin Williams, do you think they pushed back on his pitch count just a pinch today? He threw like 129 last time out, going for the no-hitter. I think there's a chance that they can, if they can cut him an inning, they will. I was sort of thinking about that. I was thinking about betting his under on total pitches today. I feel like that's sharp, but I don't know what the manager's thinking.
Yeah, I was on the overnight projections for MLB last night, and I had him at, I think, 90 pitches with that thought in mind, and it looks like the day projections team bumped him up to 95. So I think it's certainly a possibility. I think it's maybe hard to rely on because 126 pitches is a lot. Don't get me wrong, but also it's not like he's on short rest or anything like that. But it is certainly a situation that we're not used to seeing. But yeah, he did throw quite a bit. So I think if the opportunity presented itself to where they could easily find a way to cut him an inning or two, maybe not even two, but maybe just a few pitches shy of what they typically are aiming for, I think that's certainly possible. In terms of the Gilbert versus Hunter Brown argument, I'm taking Gilbert straight up over Hunter Brown. Even if they were the same price, same ownership, I'm taking Gilbert. I do think he'll be more popular on FanDuel than Hunter Brown, but I think that's the market being spot on here. I mean, you mentioned it, this lineup falls off a cliff, and that's what's going to happen when you trade away half your lineup at the deadline. But obviously, you still have a couple of big bats in Henderson and even Westberg and Rutschman. And Mountcastle certainly has some power, but he's better against lefties, but also a high strikeout guy. So, yeah, I think this is actually a really good spot for Logan Gilbert. So I would certainly take him over Hunter Brown. Hunter Brown also looks good, and I think it's worth noting that the Orioles actually have a higher team total than than Boston. So if that's an ownership battle you wanted to make over taking Brown over Gilbert, you can start there. But for me, I do think Gilbert's the safer and also the higher upside strikeout guy today.
Richie in chat's asking about Kade Horton. I just, the Ks aren't high enough, and it's not a good K matchup. So I don't know what the upside is here. On the season, 17.8% as far as the strikeouts for Horton. That's not great. And this lineup for Toronto, really, really good for WOBA, pretty good for power. And they're really contact heavy at 17.3%. You got Loperfido and Varsho, the two lefties. But besides that, I guess Barger, he'll strike out a fair bit too. But it's just not enough K upside for me for Horton. What about yourself?
Yeah, agreed. The price also isn't like even all that great either. I mean, he's 8-1 on FanDuel, like that's a pretty easy pass.
Yeah.
And then 7.5 on DraftKings. Like if he was 6.5, maybe. But like again, I mean, this is arguably the worst strikeout matchup in baseball right now. Like this Toronto team has so many guys who are just absolute net zeros for strikeouts. I mean, they have 6 guys in the lineup who have a 16% strikeout rate or lower against righties this year. And then you have a couple other guys, Barger, Varsho, Loperfido, who strike out at a high rate, but a couple of those guys are also low samples. So it's like it's just not a good strikeout matchup for Horton. And if he doesn't strike those 3 guys out, who also happen to have a lot of power, he's probably not going to be racking up too many strikeouts. Like this 3.5, I think is a good number or a good line. But if I had to take the higher or the lower, I'm taking the under on 3.5 strikeouts for Horton.
Gausman on the other side. Any interest in Kevin?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the talk of the town has been the slump of this Cubs team, especially PCA. But it's still intimidating to roll out anybody against this Cubs team when you look at them and you look how good they are. I mean, kind of top to bottom. Obviously, you have a couple of weak spots in here, but they're also not a high strikeout team. And similar to Toronto, the couple of guys who do strike out also have some power. So, I mean, I think Gausman's a fine tournament play. You can certainly make a case for taking him over Joe Ryan, who I think has a couple of different holes to be poked in his resume today, and he's also Gausman's a little bit cheaper. So I think you can certainly make a case for Gausman in tournaments, but I certainly don't think he's a safe option by any means today, even though this Cubs team has been slumping a bit, and they have just a 4.2 implied team total today.
I certainly hope TJ, who's in the bullpen, TJ, Kristi, Roth, going to be gone for crunch time later. I hope he's not here because if he did, he does not take kindly to anybody besmirching PCA. He swears PCA is the greatest baseball player of all time. If you say anything negative about him, he'll get very upset, and he'll never let you hear the end of it. So,
well, to be fair, it's not me. It's just the stat sheet over the past 30 at bats for PCA.
No, you can't. You're just not allowed. You can't acknowledge.
I'm just reading the numbers.
I was just reading numbers to him as well, and he didn't like it. He didn't like it. He didn't like when you. I'm like, I told him that PCA is not good against lefties, and he got very upset. It's like the numbers are the numbers. He strikes out a lot. He doesn't walk. But okay, let's. Anything else as far as pitchers? You mentioned Joe Ryan. We kind of mentioned him in passing. How rosterable is Joe Ryan against the Yankees?
Yeah, real quick. Derek just mentioned it in the chat, but I sent a message in the MLB projection channel about Wroblewski. Just take a look at that. So it sounds like that is getting updated. They're going to lower him on the pitch count, and that's going to bring the ownership down as well. So that's going to change soon. And then, sorry, your question was Joe Ryan?
Yeah, you mentioned him. He's as far as skill wise, one of the better pitchers, of course.
Yeah,
tough matchup here against New York. New York seems to be I think they're turning things around there. I'm buying. I know there's been a lot of turmoil, and they want to fire the manager, all that kind of stuff. But I think things are turning around in New York. We'll see. Stay tuned. It's all sort of day to day with them. People like to overreact to the Yankees, but
yeah.
How do you feel about Joe Ryan today?
Yeah, I mean, on paper, I think this is a good risk reward spot for Joe Ryan, who has a 6.5 K prop, which is one of the higher numbers on the slate. I think it actually is the highest when you factor in the odds there. He's at minus 110 for 6.5. Hunter Brown's at plus 100. So he's the Vegas favorite to lead the slate in strikeouts today. But there's two issues for me. Is one, the matchup has a lot of power in New York. Again, I know I make fun of that, Little League ballpark quite a bit. You have the rain there, which typically is just going to lower ownership for people. And for the Ryan fade, like for me, I'd rather have him be as popular as possible and then fade him just for as much leverage as possible. But I guess we'll get the further updates from Roth. But the main issue I have with Joe Ryan is I think it's going to be really tough. I mean, he's the one guy that they kept at the deadline. Like they literally traded nobody else, or they traded pretty much everybody else. I think you have to be concerned about the fact that they have nothing to play for. There's no need to stretch him out at all. He's still going to be a guy that they have in their long-term plans. Clearly, he threw 87 pitches last outing, only pitched 5 innings despite only allowing 1 run. So I think that's the one thing. I mean, there's there's been no confirmation about it for Joe Ryan, but I mean, you read the tea leaves, right? There's really no need for him to go out there. I mean, there's no need for him to go out there and throw 100 pitches. So if it's a spot where he's getting in any trouble or, the game is out of reach, whatever, I think there's a very quick trigger here on Joe Ryan. So I think that's something to consider. I don't think the fade's going to be as noteworthy today because I just don't think he's going to be as popular as I was kind of hoping. But again, I think it's still a good strikeout matchup for him because these Yankees do have a lot of swing and miss in that lineup.
Yeah, just Minnesota as a team organizationally before all this stuff they just baby their pitchers more than probably anybody else. Third time around, like you see how they handle Zebby sometimes. Not that it's the same thing, but I do agree with that thought process that the hook might be a little bit quicker. And, why would you let him throw like 107 pitches unless he's like throwing a no-hitter or something like that?
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else you want to say as far as pitchers? We got to talk about some tiers here in a second. Crunch time coming in about a half hour or so. We're going to include the FanDuel games as well on today's tiers. You want to give just like a summary. And in that summary, we kind of mentioned Peterson in passing.
Yeah.
We're going to assume weather's good everywhere. Roth will handle that. We're going to talk about like weather being fine. We did get an upgrade as far as the weather. It's now both games in New York are officially yellow-orange, a little less scary. He was talking about probably a delay, then a play clean for 9 without delay. But that stuff can change. He'll be on in a half hour, give or take. But your summary of pitchers, including Peterson.
Yeah, I actually really like Peterson in this spot. I mean, the lineup that the Braves are rolling out is just not very good. I had a couple of different words going through my mind and went with the PG version. Not very good. But no Acuna in the lineup, no Austin Riley in the lineup. So it's like and plus this team has just been underwhelming from the get-go. Sean Murray's been their best hitter against lefties. He is in the lineup, but he also strikes out 34% of the time this year against lefties. So while there is some power risk, it's still also a strikeout spot. And then you have Ozzie Albies, who's just been absolutely horrendous this year. That they've just been shoving down the lineup as much as possible. How far can we get him in this lineup? And now they have to hit him in the 4 spot today, which I'm sure they're not happy about. So yeah, this team is very bad. Obviously, you have to worry about the weather. But again, if it's a spot where Roth's like, I think this game's going to play, people just sometimes are like, I'm not going to mess with it. There's no point in even trying to predict the weather. They're just going to ignore it. So it's going to bring his ownership down. I think even if we get great news, even if this game switches to green, I think that they're still going to get a lower ownership number on Peterson because of the name that the Atlanta Braves have and then the weather. So I think Peterson's a great tournament play. I also love Schlittler in this spot. He threw 97 pitches in his last start, so they're clearly stretching him out more. Matchup here against this Minnesota team, like we just mentioned, who's shipped off all their players. So you got a lot of guys who you can argue maybe aren't even MLB caliber players on a regular basis. So you do still have some good bats in this lineup for what it's worth. Guys who put up good numbers: Buxton, Larnach, Wallner, Clemens. These guys do look pretty good, but you also have a handful of strikeout guys in this lineup as well. And when you look at Schlittler's minor league numbers compared to MLB numbers this year, I think there's still some room to be pushed up on this strikeout rate here, being at about 21%. In the minors, he's about 28, 29%. So I think that could also go up there. So I think those are the two guys in the mid-tier or value tier that I'm looking at the most to pair with one of Brown or Ryan. I'm probably not playing too much of Joe Ryan. Hunter Brown is a guy who I think you can easily make a case to fade, especially if we get good news on these New York games, because I just mentioned two of my favorite pitchers on the slate. Schlittler and Peterson are both in those New York games, so make sure you're keeping an eye on that. So for me, if we don't get good news on those two guys, Peterson and Schlittler, I'm probably going to get back into the corner of playing some of this chalk a little bit more. But I think both of those guys are pretty solid options.
Reminder, you see it on the scroll. Get in the Discord channel if you want a chance to win a weekly of RG Premium. We are doing Wheel Wednesday. If we get to 100 likes, producer Steve, again, feeling very generous, going to give out 2 individual weeks of RG Premium. That's football, baseball, basketball, hockey, NBA, PGA. You got the NFL preseason. There's golf going down tomorrow, and there's some golf playoffs going down. WNBA. I probably missed something else there in the mix. MMA. All the bells, all the whistles. Yeah. What? Say it again.
NFL preseason and best ball. I don't know if you mentioned those two, but got some good stuff there too.
Is best ball included? I didn't know best ball was included in RG Premium. Is that you say best ball?
I think it is. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we have all of our rankings and stuff looped in with the NFL product. So maybe I'm wrong, but I'd be pretty surprised that wasn't included.
the sims, the projections, the articles, everything you can think of. You get it for a week. All right. So today's tiers category, I had fun with it yesterday. I had a hard time picking because there's so many options, but college football right around the corner, running it back. I had some more names. I just love the random names. I don't know why, for whatever reason, college football seemed, and more so than any other sport, just the best random names. I guess there's so many players, so many teams, I suppose.
Yeah.
But we had a good list yesterday, I think, and we had some names that were left over. So, and I don't know if you can think of any. Like most of these are like random linebackers for like UTEP, and I'm assuming you don't. Can you think of anybody off the dome? A spectacular college football name that or is that you just sort of know it when you see it?
There's so many. There's a guy. I mean, the coldest to ever do it was a guy.
The best. He was on the list yesterday.
Okay, yeah. We had a list going in the college football projections channel. I'm blanking on the names. That's always the first thing that comes to my mind. But yeah, there's so many good ones.
Chop said he had a deal with an air conditioning company, which is just spectacular, like a local deal.
Yeah.
I love that. All right, so today's list, again, we had more names to pick from. I made this list. There's a dude who plays cornerback for Rice named Mo Billity, which is just amazing. I love this. I loved it so much. He's a cornerback it's a mobile position too, right? You got to be mobile to play quarterback.
Yeah.
So that's what it works out. Another one, tier 2. Well, I guess our tiers will be thrown up here on the screen momentarily. But a tier 2 player is a dude with the name of Gideon Lamprin. And it's like, well, that's not interesting. Well, wait a second. What's his middle name? It's Gideon ESPN Lamprin. His dad's just like a big sports fan. And he wanted to name the kid after Larry Bird. And this is the research I was doing pre-show. And the wife said, no, that's not happening. But she let ESPN go through. So Gideon, ESPN, Lamprin. And then, of course, who can forget Hans Hammer, which, let me ask you a question. You're Hans Hammer. What position do you play if you're Hans Hammer?
It's got to be fullback.
Yeah. What's the second position you play?
Running back?
Offensive lineman. But yeah, fullback's a good guess, too. Yeah. Hans Hammer is a German. He's German. And his name is Hans Hammer, and he's an offensive lineman. I liked it. I don't know. And then you know about Karate Benson, right? Karate Benson, the wide receiver for Wake Forest.
Unfortunately, Wake Forest. Okay, that's a pretty big school.
He actually has pretty good stats too. He might be somebody that's actually worth noting in DFS. And then I hear Jeremiah Smith is spectacular, wide receiver for Ohio State. I hear he's excellent, but the name Jeremiah Smith, that's not. I'm sure he's good. I'm told he's like one of the best players in football, but we're ranking names, and that's just, no shade to the Jeremiahs out there or the Smiths out there, but you can't compete with mobility. So there you go. That is
anytime you want to put some hate or some shade on an Ohio State player, I will back you up till the end of the time. So don't worry about that. I got your back. I actually found the list. I have a couple other names. Maybe they're yesterday, but the quarterback General Booty.
Yeah, he was there yesterday. And the famed Booties, John David Booty and Josh Booty, the Booty family.
Oh, they're related? Okay. And then Fat Watts. He was actually
one. Is that PH or is that F?
PH, yeah.
I love it.
And then there's two more that I really – Squirrel White, who I think is done now, but he was at Tennessee last year. He was actually really good. And then Rocky Beers.
Rocky Beers is pretty good. That's got to be a linebacker. Your name is Rocky Beers? Linebacker.
I think he's a quarterback, but I could be wrong.
I feel like
he's a tight end, Colorado State tight end.
There was a tight end named Cheeks that was on the board yesterday, by the way.
That was a good one, too.
All right. So let's go ahead. Let's throw some teams into some tiers, including the first two FanDuel games. It's Seattle at Baltimore, 8.5 total. Trevor Rogers at home, taking on Logan Gilbert, 8.5 the total. Seattle is the favorite, with Gilbert being a phenomenal pitcher. They're minus 146. Big Dumper at 44? What is he at? 44 now? What are we counting how many home runs he has? It's completely absurd the seasons he's having. And this is definitely an upgrade ballpark-wise in Baltimore. Where do you have the Mariners and the O's?
Yeah, for the Orioles, again, no real need to attack Gilbert, especially from a stacking perspective. Like, you just really can't even find 4 or 5 names. And I guess if you wanted a one-off a guy like Henderson, that's fine, but no real interest there. I'm going to put the Orioles in the Jeremiah Smith category. For Seattle, Trevor Rogers actually had a couple of good starts over his last stretch of appearances, but again, I think the lineup is just more difficult than we've seen. I will say I think it's worth noting that he could be a boom bust pitcher in this spot, but a lot of good hitters that hit lefties well against him here in the Mariners lineup, especially after adding Suarez at the break. So I'm going to put the Mariners in the Gideon ESPN tier there. What a middle name.
Yeah, spectacular. Okay, so ESPN is getting the Mariners. Where did you put the Orioles? I don't see the Orioles on the board.
They're going to be in the Jeremiah Smith.
All right, Baltimore at the bottom, taking on Logan Gilbert. Miami, the Marlins are in Cleveland. Yuri Perez taking on Gavin Williams. Talk about Gavin Williams a little bit. Had that no-hitter going to the ninth inning last game. Threw 126 pitches. Ballpark jump for the Marlins. They're basically all ballpark jumps for the Marlins. Kyle Stowers, one of the better hitters in all of baseball against righties this season. The rest of the lineup, it's kind of it's probably a little better than you think it is, the general person, but there's still some holes, and there's also some pinch hit stuff when lefties come in. Marlins, Guardians much better against righties this season than lefties, but still, it's J-Ram and a bunch of dudes as it typically is. How do you have Cleveland and Miami?
Yeah, for Cleveland, again, Yuri Perez is a guy who I think is going to continue to get better as he sort of works back. So I'm not going to typically pick on him too much. I'll put Cleveland in the Karate Benson category there, and then for Miami, same sort of deal. I think there is some angle to play. Okay, maybe Gavin Williams is a little bit fatigued with that arm, and after going 126 pitches and having the draining potential no hitter, but I just don't think that's a lineup that I'm typically overly excited to stack against here. So I'm going to put them as well in the Karate Benson tier.
Just see a note that Mariners-Baltimore game that will be delayed due to rain. Where did Roth have that? I'm sure Roth will speak on it when he comes on here. He had a yellow-green, but he did talk about the prospect of a late start. So, again, he'll give you some clarity on that in about 20 minutes or so, and make sure you get in that Discord channel. Hit the avatar that producer Steve has posted if you want to get yourself a chance to win a week free of premium. We're going to be spinning that wheel when we're done with the tiers, when we're segueing into crunch time. Just got the Athletics lineup, by the way, and there is no Kurtz. He was leading off yesterday. Now he's on the bench. Cortez, Langoliers, Rooker, Soderstrom, Thomas, Hernandez, Butler, Urshela, and Schumann. So certainly weakening that Baltimore line. Man, can Rasmussen throw like 85 pitches? Like, I guess he can, but they just won't. That's another team. Yeah. Well, they've been concerned with it. Remember, he was piggybacking with the other guy. Joe somebody, was it? I can't remember what it was, but they're trying to limit his innings, and I don't know what his upside is, but I think he's going to be pretty good when he's out there.
Hey, he's worked in the sixth inning in the last two starts.
But he's also been like crazy efficient, right?
Yeah.
79 and 73 pitches. And that's tough to do. Not saying you can't do it again.
Right.
But that's like 3 innings for Robbie Ray, I think. I'm pretty sure. Not mistake. We're doing we're doing the math. Okay. So let's go back to we're talking about DK now. Well, DK and FanDuel. Minnesota and the Yankees, that's Cam Schlittler versus Joe Ryan. 8.5 total. New York is the favorite here, minus 156. We saw Aaron Judge bang one out last night, first time in a while. Stanton, man, when Stanton hits it, it's amazing. The power that guy still generates. Yeah. I know there's holes in his swing, but when he gets a hold of it, it's awesome. Jazz has been taking some awesome at-bats, just walked several times yesterday, and he's been really aggressive of late on the bases too. So I don't really want to pay up for a guy that walks, but like when he gets on, he's going to try to steal a bag for you. I think he's closing in on 20 for the season. Minnesota and the Yankees, where do you want to throw him on the tiers board?
Yeah, shout out to Jazz. He's been looking pretty good at the plate after his 3 home run derby performance. Maybe something clicked after that.
He begged to be in it too. He was like, he really wanted to be in there, and tough scene.
I mean, that was one of the more predictable things. Maybe not 3, but I think it was pretty easy to take the under on him in that one. But
I bet against him in the head-to-head. I can't remember who the guy that did really well. Actually, I can't remember who it was.
Caminero.
Yes, yeah, I had Caminero. I had him. I wheeled him like it was a horse. I wheeled them in the finals, and didn't quite work out the way I wanted it to. But continue.
Yeah. So for this one, for the Yankees, again, I think you can sort of talk yourself into liking this team a little bit more from a tournament perspective, just because if the situation with Joe Ryan is maybe one where they want to limit him, or maybe he gets roughed up a little bit and they're like, all right, no point in trotting him out there over and over again while he's sort of getting touched up a little bit. I think that's sort of an issue. And then you get to that bullpen where they just traded everybody away. So I actually like this Yankees team a little bit from a tournament perspective. I'll put them in the Gideon, ESPN tier. And then on the other side for the Twins, I know I made a couple of jokes here about this Twins lineup, but they do have some hitters that can still be formidable. Still not a team I'm dying to stack, though. I'll put them in the Hans Hammer tier. I would probably still prefer to play Schlittler, but I think that's maybe more so looking for a reason to have a value pitcher on the board. But I still think that they're a fine team to stack if you wanted to do so. So I'll put them in that middle tier.
Also, no Blade in that Athletics lineup. We were projecting Blade to be in there at Urias. So, yeah, Cortez leading off. Colby Thomas cracked it. Schumann. It's about as bad as an Athletics lineup we could have expected. So maybe Rasmussen on a slate like this, where what is the opportunity cost that pitcher? We don't really love the stars, where they're positioned. I might be willing to play some Rasmussen. I think he can possibly give us 5 or 6 fairly clean. So I'm going to look into that. All right, Cubs and Toronto 8.5 total. Cade Horton taking on Kevin Gausman. Toronto the slight favorite, -132. Where do you want to throw the Blue Jays and the Cubbies? The slumping Cubs.
Yeah, slumping is a kind word. They've been going through it right now, and as teams do in MLB, you never want to overreact to it and completely write them off just because they're going through a slump, because good teams are going to break out of that slump eventually. I don't know if this is necessarily the time I want to do that. Gausman is a guy who can be prone to power at times. He does give up a good amount of hard contact, but I will say he gives up more hard contact to righties rather than lefties. So I think that's noteworthy for this matchup. I'll put them in the Hans Hammer category there. I think it's one of those spots where if you wanted to play Gausman in tournaments, you can do that. If you wanted to play the Cubs in tournaments, you could also do that. So I'll put them in the mid-tier. Then for the Toronto side, Cade Horton, he's just one of the guys he's pitching to contact, hoping to keep the ball on the ground. And to be fair, it's kind of an interesting matchup because Toronto is a team that is just trying to put the ball in play. I'll put the Blue Jays there in that second category, though, the Gideon ESPN tier, as I do think that this lineup does have a good amount of pop, and Cade Horton is just not an overwhelming pitcher. So I think it's a spot where I don't mind to target them in some lineups.
You made a face earlier when I mentioned Jeremiah Smith, and I get it. You're a Michigan guy, Ohio State. I'm curious, if you were to power rank, maybe this is a future power ranking board, I don't know, like most hated people associated with Ohio State. Who's the first person? Who's the one you have an irrational hate for? Who that's associated with Ohio State?
So any sport?
Yeah, any sport. Whatever.
Okay. Irrational is tough because I think it always
rational.
It always depends on. It's kind of who's ever current, in my opinion. Because there's no sense to keep hating on guys who are gone. Like Ezekiel Elliott, I used to hate so much, but I don't care anymore. So right now, I think number one is probably going to be Jeremiah Smith. One that the big one was Aaron Kraft for Ohio State basketball. That guy was just always a nuisance. So he was for sure up there. Kirk Herbstreit is one, which is kind of ironic. But I just feel his bias comes out quite a bit. Urban Meyer, same thing. Urban Meyer, whenever you get him and Herbstreit on the telecast, it's always I'm sure it's the same way when people have to hear Charles Woodson and Desmond Howard. But for me on the other side of things, those two are certainly up there. And then I guess a fifth name, one that I just cannot stand because of a couple of issues or calls in the past. JT Barrett, that guy. Yeah, not a fan of that guy.
I figured I'd get some good names out of you, and I did. All right, let's move along. Let's talk about next game on the board. It's Boston and Houston. No, I skipped that one. It's Atlanta and the Mets. David Peterson is home against the Braves. Big time favorite here, -217. They beat up on Strider. Now they get Cookie Carrasco. How old is Carrasco? They were talking about it in chat.
62.
I'm taking the over on 62. Or is that how fast his fastball is these days, Carrasco?
Both. It's one of those things like, when like a 70-year-old guy goes out and shoots 70 playing golf, it's like an impressive thing when Carlos Carrasco is 68 throwing 68, but he's actually 38.
He's only 38? I would have taken the over in 38. All right. So, how do we feel about the Braves and the Mets? Wind blowing out again toward left. Typically, obviously not a great ballpark for power or for offenses. It's a pitcher friendly, but the ballpark can only do so much when you have the skill set these days that, Carrasco has. Weather Edge is telling us it's getting a 14% bump in 156 previous games with this typical weather. So, 13% bump in runs as well. Mets and Braves, what do you got?
Yeah, Producer Steve knows exactly where this Mets team is going. They're going up at the top. This is like an ideal scenario because it's like at a point where the Braves just don't care anymore. So they're just picking people up off the street and like just begging them to eat innings. I mean, Carrasco threw 103 pitches last time out. And in his first start with the Braves, he threw 95 pitches. So it's like they're just begging him to eat innings. And he's not good anymore, but they just, they're just preferring to have these guys who have no part in their future be out
there. Give a minor leaguer a chance. Why not? Like, give somebody a shot. Well, I don't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, you're good. I mean, I get the point there, but you also have to worry about the longevity of a player's career. Like you're bringing a guy up to potentially just get rocked and not be a part of a team that's trying to win games right now. So it's like, do you want to bring someone into that sort of environment? Why not just have this old guy eat innings for us and watch him kind of wilt away on the mound? So that's what the Mets get today. They get a guy who is bad and a team doesn't care if he's bad. They're just going to leave him out there. So it's kind of an ideal situation. So love the Mets tonight. On the other side for this Braves team, I like Peterson a good amount in this spot. Put him down there. We'll put the Braves down there in that Jeremiah Smith category as well. I like Peterson a lot as a real life pitcher. And this Braves lineup, we talked about it a good amount already. They're just not super competitive right now. So it's a good spot for Peterson. But again, make sure you're checking back on the Roth reports as we get closer to lock.
Like you said, the Mets were going to go into mobility, whether you selected him or not, because producer Steve was going to force and make that happen. He's asking in chat, did they use up all their runs yesterday? That's not a thing, right? I think he's joking, but some people believe that's a thing. Like you even hear announcers say they should save some of these runs for tomorrow. Like that's not real. It's not real.
No. It's it's the same thing as like I don't know. There's a lot of like superstitions and Grant deals with it every day. He's like, oh, I want Brent Rooker to hit a home run tonight, but then somebody in the mentions, oh, he hit one yesterday, so it's impossible. It's just like one of those things. It's like it's sort of like to the mental of a gambler or somebody who's a casual sports enjoyer. Some of that stuff might be difficult to see, but it doesn't actually have any impact on the outcome.
There's not a lot of great pleasures on Twitter for me, but one of my great pleasures is reading Grant's mentions because, man, some of the things like somebody like I don't want to go down the rabbit hole, but you work for the books and so somehow take me through the logic. Somehow Grant knows who's not going to homer, and the books say like here's 3 players that are not going to homer. There's no chance. The book just knows like. It's Jose Altuve, he's not going to homer today. So if you could just recommend him, that's going to make us rich. Like this is where the brains they're thinking that's okay. You've seen this before, right? Yeah, I'm not making this up. Allegedly 100%. He's recommending players that won't homer because they know for sure 100% who's not going to homer.
So he knows that, and he's recommending all these picks, but he's still up 70 units on the MLB season betting pretty much just homers. So. Definitely. If someone's looking for home run picks, that's the guy to tail. That's for sure.
And then they're like, oh, you stunk yesterday. You only got 2 out of 4. And it's like, you understand 2 out of 4 is awesome.
Yeah, but then
I'm sorry you're parlaying him and losing the parlay. You're not doing it right. All right. Shout out to Grant. But Boston and Houston, Hunter Brown's at home versus Walker Buehler. Hunter Brown, probably the best pitcher, arm talent-wise on the DK slate. Not the best matchup. Buehler is bad. I think he's bad. Michael Porter Jr. He knows. MPJ knows who's going to homer. Yeah. Oh boy. I heard a clip from he was on a podcast the other day talking about. It was interesting. We don't have time to get into such things. But Buehler against the Astros. Houston is the favorite here at -158. Where do you want to put Houston and Boston?
Yeah, Walker Buehler's been a guy who people have been happy to attack so far this season. I think you can make a strong case for that again. And they've been a team that I think made some good moves at the deadline. I think getting Sanchez was a strong move. I'll put them in that second category, the Gideon ESPN tier. And then for Boston, I think if ownership game theory wasn't a thing, they'd probably be in the bottom tier for me. They have a 3.6 implied team total, but the issue is Hunter Brown's going to have 50% projected ownership, or he's going to be massively popular tonight. And I still think that this lineup has a lot of big time bats in it. So for that reason, I'll put the Red Sox in the Karate Benson tier. And again, it's a small slate. If you're someone who's playing over 20 to 50 lineups, like you should definitely have some Red Sox exposure, just because it's probably only going to take 5 to 10% of lineups where you have Red Sox stack to get some leverage there, especially on how popular Hunter Brown's going to be.
We officially have a delay for the Yankees, but that's what Roth was telling us. Looked like the likely scenario. I think that's what we kind of wanted. We wanted a delay, and then again, Roth will be on in a few minutes. He'll tell you, he'll give some more clarity to it. But the way I read his article, he expects a delay and then a play. Ohtani, the combination of Ohtani and Wroblewski for the Dodgers. Also, our projection team did knock down Wroblewski's projection, where he's no longer rosterable. Basically, 2% is the current ownership, because we're giving him now just 50 pitches. That's what's being delegated his way. Ohtani, he's going to start. He's got to kind of be perfect, but maybe he throws four-ish innings today against the Angels. Revenge. He got a revenge homer last night. You would have thought it was a Dodger home game, the way the crowd erupted. I don't know if you saw that. Basically, everybody erupted when he homered, and I think it was the 8th or the 9th inning to break up a tie game against Kyle Hendricks tonight. That is a good opponent to homer against. And you can't roster Ohtani, right? Offensively, it's year 9, and we still haven't figured out how to break off Ohtani into 2 different people. Okay, maybe his last year when he's like 39 years old, finally cashing those checks, they'll figure it out. But cross your fingers on that. LA, pretty big favorite, big total as well, 5.5 lock in for 9 against Hendricks in that bullpen. Where do you want to put the Dodgers and the Angels?
Yeah, Dodgers going in the top tier with the Mets and mobility. You mentioned you can't roster Ohtani in the stack, but again, it's not ideal because you'd like to have that big bat, the guy who has, I think, 44 homers on the year in your stacks. It also makes it a little bit more, financially responsible for the salary wise. I will note for Hendricks, righties have had more success power wise. So again, you can target guys like Mookie Betts, Will Smith, Pages, Teoscar, in that sort of realm there. So again, Ohtani not being available in your stack is not ideal, but there's still plenty of great ways to stack this Dodgers team. So they're going to be a top stack for me. And then for the Angels, not overly interested here. I mean, they are a team with some power, but they also strike out a lot. And they're going to be facing, we're projecting our Ohtani and then Wroblewski, 2 high strikeout guys. So I think that does not bode well for them. I'll leave them in that Jeremiah Smith tier.
All right, last game. We do want to mention we're going to give away a week free of RG Premium. If we're at 100 likes by the end of this game, I think we're close. I think we're on the verge. If we get to 100, we'll give away 2 individual weeks. Just get that Discord channel, rotogrinders.com/Discord, the live stream chat channel. We're going to spin the wheel. The wheel is no longer rigged. It's rigged. It's perfectly legit now. You could stop the Reddit channels about it. We're good to go. But all right, last game. Let's talk about the Athletics. Not a great lineup for the Athletics. No Kurtz, Cortez leading off, no Blade, Rasmussen on the other side. Still a great environment for hitting baseballs, but this is probably the worst iteration of a lineup you're going to get for the Athletics. No Tampa lineup just yet. Again, really dramatic splits. Much better versus righties than versus lefties. Brandon Lau looks like an awesome play, in a vacuum. I don't know if I'm going to fully stack Tampa, but I do like Lau a good bit. But the field's going to like him too, I believe. Tampa and the Athletics, where do you want to throw them on the board?
Yeah, I'm liking the Rasmussen call. The more I look at it, the more I'm liking him quite a bit. He's 8-2 on DraftKings. I think if there's any weather issue with guys like Peterson or Schlittler, Rasmussen could easily slot in here. I think the best part about this is we've talked about a couple of big names not in the lineup, and they're both lefties, right? Kurtz and Blade. Rasmussen, not only does he strike out more, he does strike out more lefties, but the hard contact and the ground ball rate, you look at, it's a huge difference. I think that's important here in this park. 59% ground ball rate against righties. He's going to see 6 righties in this lineup tonight. 42% ground ball rate against lefties. I think that's important for power prevention in this park. So Rasmussen, I do think, is getting a nice upgrade. Worth mentioning there. So I'll put the A's in the Karate Benson tier. I think you can bump them up to Hammer, the Hans Hammer tier if you want, but I'll leave them there in that 4th tier. And then on the other side for the Rays, I do like this team quite a bit. I've touched on this team a handful of times on the show over the past few weeks, and it's like if you're not rostering guys with power in this lineup, they have a ton of stolen base upside. So anytime they get a good matchup, I typically do like them quite a bit. Over 5 implied team total, they'll be in the mobility tier as well, joining the Dodgers and the Mets as a top stack for me tonight.
All right, going to recap the board. When I'm done recapping it, we'll spin the wheel. But before that, also, after I'm going to recap the board, I do want to throw it to you and get your homers. Give me some homers. Think of some homers on layaway. Or if you have any props you like in the prop straight, I know you're over there in scores and odds. I know you have some golf stuff posted out there as well.
I do, yeah.
Today's tier board power ranks some more college football players. Tier number 1, of course, is Mobility. Mobility has the Mets, the Dodgers, and Tampa. Gideon ESPN Lampron is tier 2. That's Seattle, the Yankees, Toronto, and Houston. Hans Hammer, Virginia Tech offensive lineman out of Germany. That's the Twins and the Cubs. You got Karate Benson, wide receiver out of Wake Forest. Cleveland, the Marlins, Boston, and the Athletics. Kind of a downgrade of the Athletics, their lineup. We just talked about it. And while Jeremiah Smith is a spectacular football player, it's not the greatest name. It's fine, but it's 5 for our purposes here. That's Baltimore, Atlanta, and the Angels. Kyle, give me some homer calls, some props. What do you got for me?
Yeah, I got a few home run calls. Trent Grisham, I like to go yard today, whether it is off of Joe Ryan or that putrid bullpen for the Twins. I also like Vlad Guerrero Jr. to go yard today in this one. And then, looking at a few of these Mets guys as potential options. I like a lot of these guys in the spot, but I'm going to go with Brandon Nimmo to go yard off of Cookie Carrasco tonight.
Yeah, Nimmo took a Strider yard last night. You mentioned Minnesota, just one lefty in that bullpen as well. He did work yesterday and 2 of the last 3 days. Cody Thunderberg. They traded away, I think, 4 or 5 of their arms. Griffin Jacks, Yohan Duran. Worst ERA, worst Sierra current bullpen in baseball is Minnesota. All right, the wheel is live. We're going to give it a whirl. Let's get some 2 winners for the people. All right, shout out to DuckFan1981. You're going to get a DM momentarily, and round 2.
Roth likes this song.
It's no Doppler boy. Winner number 2 is RC Player 07. Again, a week free of RGA Premium. Also, if you want, dealer's choice. If you want, producer Steve will juice you up with scores and odds, whichever you prefer. You'll be getting pinged momentarily. That said, let's go ahead, seamlessly segue to crunch time right now. All right, I know we have the FanDuel start time in 18 minutes, so we got to get to it. Ross going to talk some weather as well. Roth, I'm not sure if you saw. I assume you did. We are delayed for the Yankees. I don't know if the Mets are delayed, but the Yankees did announce a delay. But TJ, I don't know if you were watching, but Kyle besmirched PCA earlier. Were your ears ringing? Were you angry?
Not only did Kyle besmirch PCA, which, if I'm being honest, I totally missed that, but here on the show that I'm coming up next, and Kyle's going, if there's somebody you should follow for home run picks, it's that Grant guy. No mention of Spidey bombs whatsoever. No mention of the Spidey bombs. Just despicable stuff from Kyle.
Spidey tier 2, Grant tier 1, TJ tier 5. Tier 5 for home run calls. Does that sound right?
I want a month of September 1v1 Spidey Bomb versus Turd Bomb competition on the RG socials.
Listen, TJ, it's nothing against you. I'm just a patriot, so I'm backing my fellow American.
All right, we should probably step aside. That people want to know about the weather, and again, that FanDuel start time is creeping up on us. So, no pleasantries for Roth or Kristi. They're gonna have a spectacular show, but we should step aside and get out of here and let Roth do his thing. Kevin, it's all yours.
Good stuff. As always, welcome to it, ladies and gents. You know the drill. It's crunch time. You know we're bringing two of the sharpest minds in the biz. We got one, TJ Zwarych in the house. What up, TJ?
Not too much. Doing well. We got a fun slate ahead of us. Well, I guess technically two different slates, but looking forward to breaking it down, giving the people some Spidey bombs as long as we're smashing that like button and going to some live theater tonight, Kevin.
Some live theater? Is that what I heard?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay. Were you going to tell me what you're seeing or just in general?
I actually don't remember off the top of my head what I'm going to see, but it's my sister-in-law who's in something called Shakespeare on the Saskatchewan. So every year there's like a bunch of different Shakespeare performances on the South Saskatchewan River, on the outside of it. So we're headed to Shakespeare on the Saskatchewan tonight.
Okay, that sounds awesome. Shakespeare would have been the answer when I was like, what are you going to see?
I don't remember what specific Shakespeare piece.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fine. Looking forward to that. That sounds great. We need to get some home run calls out of you before you do it. And then the people are clamoring for Kristi, and we got her, Kristi Metzger, in the house. What up, Kristi?
Hey, it's great to see you guys. Always love doing shows with you guys and getting close to football season too. I mean, it's like crazy. End of August almost already. And yeah, feels like we'll be doing some football shows soon, but it's a great baseball slate. It's a good one tonight. Can't wait to break it down with you guys.
Okay, well, looking forward to that. And since you mentioned football right around the corner, you should know Fantasy Labs, your home for season-long fantasy football and best ball content. Either or, get access to rankings, projections, articles, and more from some award-winning experts. And it's got an app, so you can get real-time rankings, draft cheat sheets, and lineup advice on the go. And if you sign up with code RG15, you get $15 off. So if you are still kind of getting prepped for NFL, Fantasy Labs has you covered for some of your season-long needs. Of course, right here at RotoGrinders, we got you covered for any DFS. And we got all the sports betting you could want as well. Okay, you know what? We got to dive into this because we mentioned FanDuel Lock is coming up soon. I know that people are asking about the weather. And I think every game plays, and all of the games on the East Coast play with a late start. We already know Baltimore is under a late start. That game looks fine. And one of the two New York games has officially announced a late start, right? Was it the Yankees game that did? Either way, they're both in the same boat. I expect they will both late start. They will both play roughly an hour after scheduled first pitch. And I feel like confident enough in that I don't even think I have to add any but this or if that's. Just I would just play them all. And that's that. Does that work for y'all?
It does, because the pitching slate on DraftKings is so gross. We need some pitchers there. So,
okay. Well, I would do it. I do not expect in Baltimore, there's a slim chance of a delay in game, but I don't think it happens. In the New York games, there's like a no % chance. It will not happen in either of those. So that's where we're at. Yeah, that's it. People are saying, hey, the Mets are in a delay. It's pouring in New York. It is all of that, but it's not going to last forever. And I do expect those games to play. Let's jump into the why orange them, LMI says. Orange is a likely delay, and they're officially in a delay. So having some sort of yellow-orange combination certainly makes sense to me. Let's talk about this pitching slate. Kristi, you can lead us off. What are we doing here?
Yeah, so it's a little bit different. We're talking FanDuel locks here shortly, right? 5:35, I think we have. Coming here. So a little bit different there because we do have Logan Gilbert, which I think is a great cash game play and tournament game play too. But again, depending on the sites, you're going to want to get some exposure to him like that. I know, TJ, you wrote this up a little bit on the expert survey today. I think Cheese mentioned it. I also agree. I like some of the spend down options that we have today. There's a lot of bats that we're going to want to get to. We talked about that Mets game. Dodgers are looking pretty good. So there's a lot of expensive bats. So I definitely like looking at some of the cheaper options. You've got JT Ginn that is very cheap on both sites. And I don't even mind him on FanDuel because you're really able to load up on the bats. So don't mind that. We've got Cam in the New York Yankees game. Schlittler, I believe it is. So I think he's going to be someone that we're going to have some interest in. got to be cautious so I don't say something too crazy there. But I like him. I like those two quite a bit. And honestly, like on DraftKings, I think you can play both of them and really get to a lot of the bats there as well. Some other tournament options. I do think Hunter Brown is a spend up option over on DraftKings that I have more interest on him. I'm not looking to him on FanDuel tonight. Don't mind that. I think Gavin Williams is somebody that's fine too, but I'm probably paying down a little bit more than I have been lately, just with the bats that I want to get to.
Very good. TJ, walk me through first what we're doing on FanDuel, because that lock is coming, but then also over on DK.
Yeah, on FanDuel, my top option is definitely Logan Gilbert. That's the cash game guy. That would be who I'm going to first, and would really only consider Hunter Brown as like a pivot if I'm playing multiple lineups. But Gilbert is my main guy there. And then, like Kristi said, I love the idea of going to these cheap options. So JT Ginn or Cam Schlittler. I like it less on FanDuel than on DraftKings, but especially Ginn just because he's so cheap. I do still like on FanDuel. But Gilbert's going to be my main guy over there. Then on DraftKings, Ginn and Schlittler are actually my two highest owned on DraftKings. Hunter Brown comes just right behind them. Hunter Brown is the guy. Like in cash on DraftKings, you're absolutely playing Hunter Brown and then almost anybody you want at SP2, on SP2, like depending on where you want to go there. My first choice is JT Ginn, but Gausman, Schlittler, there are other, even Rasmussen, I think. There are other options you can do. Peterson, there are other options you can do in DK Cash, but it's 100% Hunter Brown is one of them. I'm going Ginn, Schlittler, Brown is my top three. My tier 2 is David Peterson and Drew Rasmussen. I would love for Drew Rasmussen to, actually, like, if he was throwing 90 pitches, he'd be the best pitcher on the slate today. But we're not even going to get 80 out of him. Probably, like, Tampa never lets him really go. And so it's not a great matchup from a weather and ballpark standpoint, but weak lineup for Oakland today, and they already strike out quite a bit. So I do like Rasmussen. Peterson feels like a little less of an upside option, but also a higher floor. Like Peterson just feels like a guy who you're going to get probably close to a quality start from, maybe a couple of earned runs, but he's going to just get you a bunch of ground balls as well. So he's the one I probably feel quote unquote safest with. I am getting some Gausman, but I'll be underweight against the Cubs just because I don't really like a chalky pitcher against the Cubs, even though the Cubs have been playing poorly. And then on DraftKings, I will pitch a little bit of Ohtani just because, even though he's only going to pitch 4 innings, just because we have such little to choose from.
Yeah. Do you think because we have so little to choose from? Don't we have a lot to choose from? Didn't you just say like 7 different dudes?
To choose from, but so little to choose from that we actually like.
Okay, fair. And I think you mentioned your top 2. Were they both the cheap guys, Ginn and Schlittler?
Yeah, it's a Roth night. It's a Roth night. And
you're pairing them together often, or no? That's like one spend up and one of them.
I am often pairing them together, but my preference from like a cash single entry setting would be Brown and one of them.
Yeah.
But
okay.
In my 150 lineups, I will have lots of Schlittler Ginn pairings.
Yeah. Okay.
And just like load up on all the expensive Dodgers and Mets.
Kristi, let me get to your pairings really quick. Are you double cheaping at all? Are you doing that same combo, or what would you say is your kind of go-to?
Yeah, I am too. I that is my favorite tonight too. And I'm just doing some of the 20 entry max. So I'm not kind of getting to the 150 that TJ is, but I am too, just because I think the bats are definitely worth it tonight. They're in such good spots. We'll get to that a little bit, but that's my favorite pairing by far. I do agree on FanDuel though, Logan Gilbert. I do have quite a bit of him. I do think he makes sense, but I don't mind getting to either of the cheap guys that we just talked about too over on FanDuel as well.
Okay, very good. TJ, Kristi just kind of led us into a good spot there, talking about some of the bats and some of the stacks that we like. So why don't you lead us off and discuss your favorite stacks?
Yeah, so starting things off, like there's none of the
I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. Can we also just address FanDuel stacks right off the bat in case there's something there that's important?
That is same page. That is what I was doing actually. But honestly, I don't think there's a whole lot that stands out that's different than the DraftKings slate from an offensive standpoint. Yeah. There are a lot of pitchers that we like on FanDuel that we can't play on DraftKings, but because of that, they're in those games that aren't on DraftKings. And so we don't really care about the offense either. Baltimore's going up against Logan Gilbert. Seattle's going up against Trevor Rogers. There's not as Cleveland's and that Cleveland game kind of like the pitching side more than I like the bats there too. Like I'd rather play some Gavin Williams than get any bats in that game, I think. So I don't really think you need to worry about the bats in the early stuff on FanDuel all that much, especially considering we let me double check right now. But last I checked, we don't have a Dodgers lineup yet. And so I'd rather just wait for that lineup to come out. Me personally, even a guy who plays 150 lineups, I'd probably just X out those early games from an offensive standpoint and give myself a little bit more time to build up my stacks. And so having said that, my top stack today is going to be the Mets. Absolutely love them. They're going to be chalky, but between them and the Dodgers, I heavily prefer the Mets today over the Dodgers. And so they're going to be my top target. Dodgers, just because on DraftKings you can't play Ohtani or as a bat, you are actually falling a little bit lower on my list. I like Houston more than them going up against Walker Buehler. I've been targeting Walker Buehler all year long. It's gone really, really well. And then I'm getting some Toronto as well. Even though I like the pitchers in the Athletics and Tampa Bay game, because it's a minor league park and 80 degrees with wind blowing out, I'm still stacking up both of these offenses. And so we may even get a Spidey bomb from this game. And I guess I should check the likes because we're probably, we'll do, say, first one at 150, second one at 175, third one at 200, because we got lots and lots of people watching today. So first one, we're only 8 likes away. Keep hitting that like button. Second one, 175 likes. Third one, 200 likes. So keep hitting that like button.
Okay, that was nice. The more you know. That seems very attainable. Make sure you're smashing that thumbs up for us. Kristi, let's go over some of your favorite stacks and just start, at the top with either what is chalkiest or what is your personal favorite.
Yeah, so I'll start out. I will say that the Mets and Dodgers are going to be fairly chalky tonight. They are my 2 favorites. I'm in agreement with TJ. There's just so many bats, but I think there's a lot of ways to get different though. Like especially in the Mets, you're going to have some of the guys like, Alonso and Lindor, Soto, Nimmo, the top of the order be pretty popular, but we saw a lot of the bats do well at the end of the order too. And so I think there are ways to get different. Same to be said about the Dodgers too, just kind of using the whole 1 through 9 and just mixing it up a little bit. I think you can get different, but I mean, Carrasco is just terrible. I want to get a lot of Mets into my lineups for sure tonight. Same with the Dodgers. I also like the Blue Jays. I think they're in a good spot. I like a lot of the righties, especially in this lineup. You've got Vlad, Bichette, but then you throw in guys like Varsho too, who I think is a great play there as well. I also like targeting the bats against Buehler. We've been doing it all year long, and it's usually a recipe for success. So again, Astros, they're probably a really good value play, especially over on DraftKings, a little bit cheaper. And that salary will come in handy. So I do like them. I'm trying to think here. I know I maybe throw the Twins in there a little bit too. I talked about liking Cam Schlittler on the pitching side of it too, but I also could see Buxton's back in the lineup. So I think that's kind of a little bit of a sneakier stack too. But I do like getting a little bit overweight the field on Mets and Dodgers, especially in the 20 entry max that I'm doing tonight.
Okay, very good. Let's go around the horn, Kristi. By the way, we got our first Spidey bomb. We're only 2 likes away from Spidey bomb number 2. TJ will drop that just momentarily. But Kristi, what are you doing at the catcher spot?
Yeah, so and are you kind of focusing on FanDuel mostly, or still, or just kind of
open it up to all?
Just kind of open it up to all.
Yeah.
Okay, so I would say for the catcher spot, obviously you don't need to have one over on FanDuel, but I would say guys that I'm looking for, Will Smith looks really good. Want to get exposure, like I said, to the Dodgers. He's somebody that's going to check out pretty well. Alvarez in the Mets game, we saw him have a great night last night. He's a cheap option at just $2,900. He's going to be very, very popular, but I definitely think he's somebody that is a great play. Alejandro Kirk, again, getting some of those right-handed bats in the Blue Jays lineup. Want to get some exposure there. Yainer Diaz in the Houston game, have some interest in him. He's fairly cheap too. I would also throw Victor Caratini in there. Again, also against Walker Buehler. If he cracks the lineup, let's see here. I would also throw, the Athletics lineup too, expensive, but one of our favorites, Shea Langeliers. He would be somebody that if you're paying up for to get different, he's not going to carry much ownership, but I'm mostly looking to spend down here at the catcher spot tonight.
Very good. TJ, your thoughts at catcher and your Spidey bumps.
Yeah, we got the first two dropping already. First one, Juan Soto plus 300. Second one, Teoscar Hernandez plus 375. We got the third one coming at 200 likes. So keep hitting that like button. In terms of who I'm playing at catcher position today, Francisco Alvarez is going to be my favorite. Basically, pretty close. It'll be a Mets player at near every position. That will be my favorite today. And so Alvarez is my number one catcher. But it's a strong position. Like, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players I have double-digit ownership for, which is surprising. Like, usually I have somebody in the 20-30% range and only three or four guys above 10%, but it's 6 today. And it's Alvarez, Ryan Jeffers, Ben Rice, Will Smith, Shea Langeliers, and Alejandro Kirk. And basically from Alvarez up, it's like $300 to $400 that separate each of those guys. So by all means, play a catcher in your stack. If not, if you need a one-off, literally just fill that position out last and pick any of those 6 options, because I think all of them are really strong.
Yeah. Okay.
And then, of course, Al Raleigh on FanDuel.
Yeah.
That's the only catcher I'd really be looking to play on FanDuel.
Okay. Let's go to first base. TJ, what do you like there?
Pete Alonso is my, no Mookie Betts today. I was going to be underweight on Mookie Betts, and it was projecting for 33% ownership, and I had 6% Mookie Betts. And so at least I don't have to change a lot of things, but was really hoping I could, that could be one of the places I could get some, get different than the field today. But Pete Alonso.
Look at Mean Dean with the comment. That's why they call him Mean Dean, folks. To upgrade the Dodgers lineup now. Oof. Brutal.
First base, Pete Alonso is going to be my highest owned first baseman today. You can play Brandon Lau over at first, but I prefer getting him a second base. I have 32% Alonso, only bat above 30% today, and like by far my highest owned. Freddie Freeman, I like quite a bit. Ben Rice, you can play at first base. And then Christian Walker is probably my favorite cheap play. And then 2 guys that are going to be really low owned, Vlad and Michael Busch, but only getting sprinkles to them.
Okay, good stuff. Kristi, first base, your thoughts?
Yeah, very similar to TJ here. I like Freddie Freeman, Pete Alonso, obviously a lot at the top. I do like Brandon Lau quite a bit too. Vlad, and he's pretty cheap over on FanDuel. I think he's just 3,400 over there. Really like him as a strong tournament play tonight. Michael Busch too is another guy I was going to throw out there. I know the Cubs just really didn't do anything last night, and so I like handful of those Cubs players in tournaments tonight. So throw him in there. And then, if you're looking to save money, Christian Walker fits the bill. There's quite a few Houston bats that are pretty cheap to mix in with some of the Mets guys and Dodgers guys that we like.
Okay, very good. You get to bring us to second base, Kristi.
Yep. So second base, you've also got, once again, you got Brandon Lau here. Prefer him at second base. But then Jeff McNeil is going to be a guy that we're going to want to get a lot of exposure to too, not because he's great, but because he's just 3K and really allows you to upgrade and get to the Sotos and Lindors, some of the bigger bats there. So I certainly like him. I would also throw on the Twin side. I don't mind Luke Keeschel. He is getting priced up there a little bit at 4K, but there's a couple of Twins guys, he and Buxton, that I don't think are bad GPP plays. Alex Freeland, he did crack the lineup, didn't he? I guess I was just looking at the Dodgers, but if he's in the lineup, I like him. Yep, exactly. He's a good value play really on both sites. Again, allows you to pay up. Hae-Sung Kim, I think, is a fine play. Brett Beatty is another one I'll throw in there too. He always comes in under owned. He's batting at the end of the lineup, and I think he's another way to get a little bit different as well.
Okay. TJ, your thoughts a second, please.
Brandon Lau is going to be my favorite guy here, and like an idiot, as I'm building a new set of lineups, I X'd out my old ones, and so now I don't have my full set of exposures here. I got to wait for the new one to come in. But Brandon Lau, my clear favorite today at second base. There are some cheap options on FanDuel if you can still get to. Like, I know usually when a game is delayed, I think on FanDuel, I think they open up one of the spots if I'm not mistaken. And so there are some cheap Seattle bats here you can play at second base as well. I don't really like any of those early stacks, but I don't mind getting some of those cheap Seattle guys at second. Cody Clemens, Jazz Chisholm, Luke Keyshaw is going to be one of my top bats today. But mostly at second base, if it's not Brandon Lau, it's just whoever's in my stack.
Okay. How about third base, TJ?
And I guess I forgot to mention, like Jeff McNeil is like 2-point-something K on DraftKings. So or 3K, whatever he is. So he's probably the cash guy there. But third base, Max Muncy, top option here at third. I really like spending up for Junior Caminero. Oh, nice. I almost nailed the production. Sorry, no, I mean, that's not important. That was an inside thought. I was proud of my projection guess. But not that strong of a position at third today. So outside of Max Muncy, I'm spreading out a lot. But I do really like Addison Barger, a low ownership today. I don't mind Kristi's call it Alex Freeman as a cheap option here at third. But Muncy is definitely like the clear top guy.
Okay, easy enough. Kristi, your thoughts at third?
Yep, same. Max Muncy is obviously the cash game play, but I think at tournaments too, just at his price point, he has upside to hit, a couple of home runs pretty easily. And I like the upside. He's probably one of the better Dodger plays. So I like him. Freeland again for cheap. Junior Caminero, do like him. He is priced up on both sites, but again, there are some of those Tampa Bay bats that look pretty intriguing, even though we are using some of the pitchers on the other side. I like TJ's Addison Barger call. I think getting those Blue Jays, they're not carrying a ton of ownership, so I do like that quite a bit. And maybe just a one-off play, not that I'm like targeting bats against Joe Ryan, but I don't mind, if you have a pretty chalky lineup, getting a guy like Ryan McMahon. He's not going to be utilized much just because he's usually batting eighth in the Yankees lineup there. So don't mind that for a tournament play.
Okay. Kristi, shortstop, please.
Yep. So for shortstop, Francisco Lindor is going to be the highest owned at the position. Now that we don't have Mookie Betts in the lineup, he'll carry even more ownership. So definitely like that play quite a bit. Jeremy Pena is back in the Houston lineup, and so he's somebody that you can get it just for $4,300 over on DraftKings. Don't mind that. Bo Bichette, again, like a lot of those righty bats there. So Bo Bichette is somebody that I am a little bit higher owned on today. I would also say Hyun Kim. Again, you can play him here. He's just $3,500. Again, I like, on the other side, pitching, but don't mind that if you are paying up a little bit in pitching. That's about it. I'm probably condensed at the top quite a bit and not playing as many shortstops except for the top ones that I listed.
Okay. TJ, I want your thoughts at short. And then I like this question from our guy Cayman. He says, Ortiz was the guy for the early slate. Who is the sneaky cheap shortstop that you like for the main slate?
Nobody, but if I were to pick one of them, I would say either Kim or Daryl Hernandez, but probably nobody would be my answer. Honestly, maybe Anthony Volpe. Not going to look good against Joe Ryan, but I do like the Yankees as a whole today, and they have a horrific bullpen. So I'm going to say maybe it's Anthony Volpe, but I think you should pay up for Francisco Lindor. That's my guy today. My second highest own is going to be Jeremy Pena. If you do just need like a pivot in that range off of Mookie Betts, I would suggest going to Pena leading off at only 4,300 going up against Walker Buehler. But my top option is Lindor. Second is going to be Bichette. Third is Pena. And then if you got to go to one of these cheap guys, I guess my favorite would be Volpe. But I don't really like any of the cheap options.
Okay, excellent. You get to bring us into the outfield, TJ. We have oodles and oodles of time. So feel free to break it down. What do we like? And how close are we to Spidey Bomb number 3?
Let me give a little refresh seat here. It looks like the likes had slowed down last time I looked, only at 180. So we still need 20 more likes for Spidey Bomb number 3. So keep hitting that like button. I am going Mets heavy here in the outfield. Juan Soto is my favorite. Spidey Bomb number 1. Brandon Nimmo is number 2. And then I want to make sure I'm getting a decent amount of Cedric Mullins in the back half of that order, coming in at low ownership relative to the rest of the team today. I really like getting some Nimmo and Mullins in there. They kind of look like they're, at least according to projections, getting forgotten about in stacks a little bit. Byron Buxton is my favorite non-Met today. If I can get up to Byron Buxton, that's definitely a priority. Teoscar Hernandez and Andy Pajes both batting 4th and 6th today for the Dodgers, I think are just absolutely phenomenal plays. And then to get cheap, my top option are those A's, Colby Thomas and Carlos Cortez.
Okay. Very good. Kristi, your thoughts, please, in the outfield.
Yeah, I like a lot of the same guys too. Of course, Teoscar Hernandez looks pretty good. He's just 3,100 too over on FanDuel, so I like him quite a bit. I do like Andy Pajes and getting some of those guys at lower ownership as well. I love the Cedric Mullins call. He's batting 7th, and he's going to come in quite a bit lower owned than guys like Brandon Nimmo in that Mets lineup. So I like him a ton. TJ mentioned the Yankees, and I like some of those Yankees pieces tonight too. I think Trent Grisham is a fine one-off play, or if you're looking to get a Yankee stack too at a little bit lower ownership, I like that. Josh Lau is great. Starling Marte is batting 6th, and he's really cheap too. He's going to be probably a little bit more popular than I was expecting, but certainly like him in the lineups. Talked a little bit about a few of the Twins. I think, in a 20 entry max, I do have them in a few lineups for sure. Matt Wallner, I think is always a good one-off play too. But you definitely want to get him in a twin stacks if you have him. We talked a little bit about Cody Clemens there too. Addison Barger, again, you can play in the outfield. Certainly don't mind getting to him. We talked about Andy Pajes, and then, haven't talked a ton about the Cubs, but I don't mind getting a couple of these Cubs bats in there too. If we're paying down at pitcher, getting a little bit different, you can get guys like Pete Crow Armstrong, Kyle Tucker at pretty low ownership tonight.
Okay. Very good. We are 8 likes away, it seems, from our 3rd Spidey Bomb. And honestly, we got a bunch of people watching. I think we could probably get a 4th Spidey Bomb. TJ, what's it take to get a 4th Spidey Bomb? Because we know we're going to get the 8 likes by the time we're done with this conversation.
I think we could probably get it done at 250 likes.
250. Okay, I'm pulling up YouTube right now. And I'm pulling up the RotoGrinders YouTube, and I'm going to smash that like 199. I was hoping I'd be lucky 200, but TJ, I assume we are there by now. Drop us that 3rd Spidey Bomb.
Spidey Bomb number 3 today. Although I do love myself some JT Ginn, I am playing Brandon Lau plus 390 as Spidey Bomb number 3. The reason why we got it, instead of just 25 more likes for number 4, get all the way up to 250 is because I only bet on those 3 today. I added Pete Alonso and Byron Buxton to my list, but they do not have good enough odds for a Spidey Bomb. So I will be finding a new 4th Spidey Bomb to bet on today if we get up to 250 likes.
Okay, that's on me. I just put it out there like as if you just had them lined up.
There's usually more.
Yeah. Okay. MGS says, hey, I had a Kristi Metzger at my elementary school in Miami. Did you live in Miami at some point, Kristi? Before you answer, keep in mind, he may be trying to hack you based on past addresses. He may be digging for personal info.
So be careful.
Yeah, but I think he's serious. Did you ever live in Miami?
I did not. I'm an upper Midwest type of girl. So nope, no Miami.
I have hung out with you, and I can tell there is no Miami in you, and I mean that in the very best way. It's a very good thing. Got Midwest vibes all the way through. All right, let's see. We are, 16, 17 minutes here until we hit the lock, and that means we've got plenty of time to did we do home runs? Kristi, did we get your home run calls?
No, we did not.
That was almost a just awful mistake. Kristi, give me some bombs, something like chalky, middle, and a little sneaky.
Yeah, exactly. So I would say, at the top, it's got to be somebody in the Mets game. So I'm going to go Pete Alonso at the top. Kind of mid-tier, I'm going to go Max Muncy. I just think he is Strong to hit a bomb. And then I'm also going to go Cedric Mullins. And then I'm also going to throw Matt Wallner in there too.
Okay. Very good. We got a lot of people that had our names in various elementary schools, according to the chat. Some people asking for a weather update. And maybe I'm overly confident in this, but I just think both games are a late start and play. I think both the Yankee game and the Mets game, they're both in a late start now. I think they're dry in roughly an hour and they play roughly 30 minutes after that. So I would guess the start time is like 8:25, which is, it's a little late to be super confident that they'll play, but I think they're going to play. And I think, that's what I think is going to happen. And if it goes wrong, you can absolutely shit on me on Twitter because that's my bad for being so overconfident. So that's where I'm at. We have 15 minutes until lock. Let's see what we've got. Open it up to the QQs. As always, hopping in the Discord where the cool kids hang out. Muncy or Barger, Kristi? DK single entry.
I'd say Muncy.
Okay. TJ, Alex says apologies for my tardies. Can you please recap pitcher on DK Cash?
Hunter Brown and almost anybody else you want. I'm going JT Ginn, but Kevin Gausman, Cam Schlittler, Drew Rasmussen, all of those, David Peterson, all of those viable options. I think the correct answer is probably Kevin Gausman. I'm going JT Ginn.
Okay. Brian says he had a TJ in elementary school. He was short and would skip PE to read comic books and gamble on sports. He was once suspended for trading Pokemon cards for money. This doesn't sound like anybody I know.
Not me, because there is a 0% chance I would have skipped phys ed. Like, that is nothing. Like, that is the number one priority of the day. That's what we're looking forward to the most. But the last part isn't that far from being wrong. I didn't get suspended, but I got like trading cards banned from being played at school recess because we used to do it like, so there's a game called Yu-Gi-Oh! Not sure if you've heard of Yu-Gi-Oh, but that was real big in my time. And how they did it in the show was you duel and the winner gets to pick a card from the loser's deck and it's their card now. You win, you get a card from the loser.
Right.
And
there's stakes.
Yeah, that's what we would do. And, I got a few nice cards, and then some parents were complaining to the principals and the teachers that like, hey, we paid a lot of money for this.
Yeah.
Now my kid came home crying he doesn't have it anymore. And so we weren't allowed to play with them anymore. So that did happen, and it was my fault.
Yeah, Brian was pretty spot on there, really, with his own.
Yeah, he kind of was.
Cool. If he wouldn't have said skipping gym, like he would have nailed it.
Yeah, skipping history, and we'd have been good. All right, let's see what else we've got here. Kristi, New Generation says DKGPP, Schlittler and Teoscar or Rasmussen and Clemens?
Schlittler and Teoscar.
Okay. Kristi, going back to the well here. This one from D-Rock, DKGPP, Brown and Lee as a one-off, or Ohtani and Bichette to finish off a Toronto three-man?
What was the first one again? It was
Brown and Lee as a one-off.
Yeah, I think I'd probably go Brown at pitcher, and I don't mind Lee as a one-off. So yeah, go the first one.
Okay, great. TJ, a couple questions for you. Razzle Dazzle says Alvarez or Kirk, DK Cash at the catcher spot.
That is the question, I think. I'm going Alvarez, but my brain tells me Kirk. My heart tells me Alvarez.
Okay.
I personally have Alvarez.
Okay. Let's see if we've got some questions in the YouTube. Make sure you're hitting the thumbs up. We get another Spidey Bomb at 250 likes. Let me scroll up a little bit here. Make sure I didn't miss anything. Mostly people talking nonsense in Yu-Gi-Oh. Here we go. Cody says Chandler Simpson or Teoscar, TJ?
Teoscar.
Showboat King says, why does Dean continue to ignore Kristi's sound financial advice to invest in the stock market and instead invest in Top Shot cards? Why do you do it, Dean? Why do you do it? Kristi is letting you know. She wants to get you an 8% consistent return.
That's right.
And you're over there in Top Shots. Just
come on, Dean.
Being a fool. Come on, Dean. Kristi Jorge says Buxton, McNeil, or Lau and Larnach, or someone cheaper than Larnach, DK Cash.
I would say Buxton, McNeil.
Okay, very good. Luke Keyshaw, Kristi as a punt. I feel like we were all kind of in agreement.
I do. I'm a Twins fan, and he is really good. He really is. So I like him as a one-off or as in a stack.
And is he still 2,100, or am I thinking of somebody else?
No, he's priced up now on both sites, but
somebody else who was still cheap. TJ, let's see. Middle-aged men playing Yu-Gi-Oh! The Downfall of Society. He was like 17 at the time. He was a kid.
We're talking like 10 years old.
Right, I was maybe 17. Yeah.
This was elementary school, so this would have been about 10 years old. But
this is
Michael Knack's been in a bad mood the whole show. Like, he came in, he was like, everybody's saying the Brewers are trash, and look how many runs they scored. But no one was talking about the Brewers at the time. So I think
he's just grumpy.
Coming in looking for a fight today.
Go eat a Snickers. Go get a snack and come back to us. You're feeling hangry. We've all been there. It's okay.
Wanted to beat about the Brewers, didn't work. Now he's trying to pick a fight with a 10-year-old.
Come on, man. TJ, thoughts on Varsho on FanDuel and Jesus Sanchez or McNeil or Clement for FanDuel? So first thoughts on Varsho, and then Sanchez or McNeil or Clement, which is a weirdly worded question, but hopefully you get it.
Like Varsho, we're very pro Varsho. Anytime he's in the lineup, we want to play him. It's the only problem with him has been staying healthy this year. And then of that group, I would go Jesus Sanchez.
Okay. Derek says you could follow Derek Carty's bets and return a cool 15% per year. I mean, hey, you got your chance. You got the bat. You got the blitz coming up as well. Kirkwood just yelling at Dean about Top Shots. That's good. Keep that going. Kristi, one more for the homies. Alex says Ginn and Soto or Gausman and a 4-3 outfielder. DK Cash. So Ginn and Soto or Gausman and a 4-3 outfielder.
I really like that Ginn Soto combo. I've got quite a bit of that tonight. I've even got that in single entry, so I like it.
Yep, very good. Alan says, are we risking Soto with the weather? I assume Soto's in a New York game.
He is. Mets,
I say do it. And if it goes well, message me and be like, oh, I won so much money. You're the man. And if it goes poorly, you can message me and be like, you suck. Like, I will allow it. I just think both games are going to play. So I would indeed risk it. TJ, a couple for you. William says, Pajes. Pick one. Okay, I get it now. Pajes, Simpson, J. Lowe or Lau, no one knows, or Grisham. Pajes, Simpson, Lowe, Lau with a J, and Grisham.
That's Pajes for me.
Okay, very good. Cody says Mullins or Marte, TJ. By the way, we are still 9 minutes until lock. Plenty of time to get your questions in.
Mullins.
Okay. Also plenty of time to hit that thumbs up. Make sure we get 250 likes so we can get some Spidey bombs. Kristi, please explain why DK won't let you play Ohtani either as a pitcher or batter. Why can't we have this choice? Kristi?
I know, right? Exactly. And it's like surprisingly on FanDuel, we can play Ohtani as a bat. So I know. I'm disappointed.
You know what would be more fun is if he was priced $14K and got points for both. And you could play the pitcher or outfield.
Like a super player. Yeah.
Yeah. And you would really have to, like that.
You'd really have to make a decision.
That would be so much fun though. Like DFS has been the
agree.
same for so long with just like, here's a new tool that tells you the exact odds everyone has of succeeding. But imagine like that would throw a completely new wrinkle. That'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Shout out to Michael, who was cranky all show. And he just said, okay, I'll go eat a Snickers. Sorry, guys. He owned it. He owned it.
He owned it. I love it.
You're back in the circle, Michael. You're good.
Michael,
you're good.
We love you, Michael. We love you, Michael.
Enjoy the snack. Flying Armbar says, thank you to my RotoGrinders fam, Kristi, TJ, and the amazing Mr. Raw. Thank you. Well, hold off until those games in New York play. Then you can tell me that. Let's see what else we've got here. Last piece, Kristi. Lee, Rojas, or Allen?
Assuming Brooks, Lee, Rojas. I'm actually going to go Brooks Lee there.
That's our guy, Brooks Lee.
Yeah, got to do it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Got to go Brooksley.
The Brooksley fam over here.
Right.
TJ, New Generation says DK, GPP, Clement and Loperfido or Mullins and Jimenez?
Mullins and I guess Clemens and Loperfido, so you get the correlation.
Okay. TJ, right back to you. Chris says F. Alvarez and Christian Walker or McNeil and Jesus Sanchez, FanDuel cash.
I don't really love either of those from a cash standpoint, but I guess I would do the first one.
Okay. God help us, but Dean says, I now have it on good authority. Now is the time to get in on Top Shots. Hashtag to the moon. Stop, Dean. It can still go down, believe it or not. By the way, Kyle wants another Spidey Bomb.
Yeah,
I
let's
want
go.
another Spidey Bomb.
I do too.
And we're 27 likes away from another Spidey Bomb. We still have 5 minutes. If you have not already hit that thumbs up, please do so we can get a fourth Spidey Bomb scrolling at the bottom of your screen.
DJ, have you kept track of your Spidey Bombs and how, like, your success this year? And it has to be pretty high.
I have not. I started at the beginning of the year, and then as soon as I started filling in for Steve and was on every day and was just feeding them out all the time, it completely slipped my mind. So I did have it for what was probably the worst months in April and May before it started getting warm, but I forgot after that.
Yeah. Let's see. Can we go over DraftKings pitchers for cash tonight? L21 says yes, we can. Kristi, I believe the answer is you play Brown because he's the closest thing to a sure thing, and then one of those cheaper guys, of which there are many good options at SP2.
Yep, I do think that is a good combination for cash, absolutely. And I think
do you have
we've got
favorite SP2.
I am actually on DK. I'm probably going Schlittler. He's just 7K, so I'd probably go Brown.
Okay.
And Cam. Yep.
Let's see. Scrolling down. Any last minute weather updates? There's nothing, like, it's raining in New York. It's going to rain for another hour and then it's going to stop raining. And then I think they're going to play. And that's all I got. Let's see. Hey, we're doing pretty good. We're doing pretty good here on these questions. We still have 4 minutes until lock. Did get a few more in on the Discord. So Kristi, let me read you Rocky Raccoon's question. What do you think about the young buck Colby, the Big Cheese Thomas, to hit a big old ding dong at just the measly price of $2,300 on DK? He's in the meaty part of the order too. How do you feel about that as a one-off?
Yeah, I don't mind it. Didn't he hit a bomb last night, if I remember right, too? Did he hit a bomb? But yes, I don't mind that at all. Yep.
Okay, very good. Also, shout out to Rocky Raccoon for always crafting the most absurdly worded questions. It's a long season, and I appreciate that kind of dumb humor. Alan says, Kristi, can I fade Soto to get a little different on a Met stack on DK?
Yes, you can. And I think in tournaments, honestly, I mean, as great as Soto is, I mean, you still have Alonso and Lindor, and I think Nimmo looks great. We talked a lot about Mullins. I like the whole lineup. So I don't mind that at all. And I think that's a great way to get different.
Okay, great. Blink 182 says, hey, TJ, can I play Hunter Brown and Ohtani as my two pitchers and still have a chance to win it all in a DK large field tournament? Also, Roth, the reason why Kade looked so young today was because I did mention that he had on a circle neck t-shirt and not a button down. You're right. I didn't connect those dots, but the first time I've ever seen Kade not in a button down, it's good luck for him. TJ, can he play Ohtani and was it Brown and win?
Can. If I was only playing one lineup, I would not be doing that. I do have a little bit of Ohtani in 150 lineups, but he's probably only going to pitch 4 innings and definitely not going to go deep into this game. So you're hoping he does something exactly like he did last game where he had 8 strikeouts in 4 innings, and he can do that because he's Shohei Ohtani. But you're hoping for a near perfect game out of him, and also all of Kevin Gausman, David Peterson, Drew Rasmussen to fail because, you know, if your ceiling best case scenario is 20 points for Ohtani, then you're needing all of those other guys to not get there. So doable in a large field. He'll be the lowest owned of that group. But I would only do it in like a 1 or 2 of 20 lineups as opposed to if I'm only playing one lineup kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. TJ Jim says, would you play an A's stack? We always like the weather there, but I think there's some pretty good pitchers. Would you play an A's stack?
Yeah, absolutely.
There you have it. Okay. Very good. We are moments until lock. Mr. Richard says, thank you to Kristi, Kevin, TJ, and of course, producer Steve. It's such a key part of what we do. Shout out. Steve not only does the things on air, but he also organizes a lot of stuff prior to the show, setting up. He's pretty awesome. Lucky to have him here. Let's see if we
are we getting that Spidey bomb? Getting the Spidey bomb?
I feel like we fell short. TJ, how close did we get?
We got 229. Can't do it. I can't set a bad precedent.
I know.
That's too short.
I know.
If we were like 3 likes short, you give the people
exactly.
some love. But 20 likes, nope, they fell short.
If it's within 5, you can do like the grace period of I'm giving it now, but I trust 5 more people are gonna hit it. But that's the best you can do.
Yeah. Yep. All right. We're gonna clear on out of here. We are literally we'll hit lock as I say goodbye. So for Kristi and for TJ and for, as I mentioned, our wonderful production crew, always working hard behind the scenes. Guys, we appreciate you. We love you, and we will catch you tomorrow. And I will update you on Twitter or X about the weather here. All right, we'll catch you tomorrow. You have been